Hello, lovely opinionated vegan evolution here, continuing my talk about self-abandonment. So as I was just saying, so for me personally, like I just talked about in the other two videos, I figured out all the reasons why not following my bliss, not following my joy, not doing the things that were naturally happy for me, or the things that I naturally was good at, why I felt that it was better to not do those things. So the way it manifested in my life was I would go for jobs that had nothing to do with my interests. I would be attracted to men who were not interested in artistic endeavors or people. My friendships were not geared around the things that I liked. It was more based on like, oh, who works in the office next to me, or who sits, a few cubicles. And my life was very circumstantial, like friendships of convenience, not friendships based on shared interests, but just, like I said, who was just in my life because, you work at the same company. And some of those friendships were great. You can meet great people that way. One of my favorite people in the world I met working in an office together. So I'm not discounting that. But what I am saying is that my self-abandonment manifested in those ways that instead of doing the things that I loved, which would then put me into situations where I would meet other people who share these interests, I took myself out of the world that mattered to me, the dancing and the art, painting and the pottery and the photography and even singing. So another way that I self-abandoned was many, many years ago. For some reason, I got it in my head that being interested in a man because I found him physically attractive made me shallow. And it was so important to me that I was deep, that I looked past someone's, exterior. And what I ended up doing was dating many men, not too many, but almost all of the men that I dated were not attractive to me. And it took me almost 5 years of therapy to make the connection, even though I always knew this, but okay, so if I think you're attractive, that's totally subjective. For example, I grew up with a sister and some friends who had vastly different tastes in men. So we could be outside and see some men or guys, and I might say, well, that guy is gorgeous. And my sister would be like, he's gross, but that guy behind him is, he's super sexy. And I would be like, ew, he's nasty. So I always knew, whether I think you're attractive or not is not actually based on whether you are attractive or not. It's more of a subjective, personal thing. But somehow I twisted this in my mind, and I harmed myself in many ways, trying to force myself to be attracted to someone that I wasn't. Now, of course, once I started to like them, I would see something beautiful in them. I would look for the positives, and I would find ways to believe someone was beautiful, even though originally that was not my instinct. And this is like a complicated thing, but like I said, it took me 5 years of therapy to realize if my inherent reaction to someone is to not be attracted to them, that doesn't mean that they're unattractive in general. It just means that my energy is not attracted to their energy. Because really, when you see someone for the first time, you're not really focusing on their eyes or their nose or their mouth or their hair or their butt or their whole body. In some way you are. Like Malcolm Gladwell talks about in Blink, thin slicing, where you assess a situation or a person and you thin slice. Within a split second, you kind of figure stuff out, which is all subjective to you, to me. So what I learned is when I meet someone and I'm instantly not attracted, I need to follow that instinct, because it doesn't mean you're ugly. It just means that our energy may not be well matched. And by going after someone who I think is physically attractive, now it would be shallow of me to go after someone who I thought was physically attractive, and that was the only reason that I liked them. But now I realize I need to find someone who's first eligible and then physically attractive to me, because when you're physically attracted to someone, that means your energies are more of a match. Now, it doesn't mean that you're a good match and you should end up together or be together or anything. But for me, that's like, if I'm not attracted to you energy-wise, then trying to force myself to talk myself out of that and prove to myself that there are good qualities. Now, there might be great qualities about a person, and maybe we'll be good friends or whatever. I could learn from you. But to open my heart and my body and my life to someone who is not inherently attractive to me is a form of self-abandonment. And what I found was that I would date these men, and that wasn't the only thing that I did that put me on the path of dating the wrong guys. Not looking for an artist, not caring whether someone liked art or not, not being true to myself in my own life, set me up as I would meet someone and they wouldn't really know who I was. They would like me based on this false persona that I was putting out there because I wasn't being true to myself. So, I also had issues with the idea of being a mom, the idea of being a wife, and so I was attracted to men who were not looking for marriage and children. So basically I was committed to a non-committal lifestyle. And I never dated a man who said, I want to get married and have children. I didn't realize at the time that that's because if a man had said that, I would have been run. I would have been gone, because that was terrifying to me, and I was not willing or able to offer that to someone because I didn't believe in that for myself. And not because of some moral type of or ethical reason, but because I had a lot of unresolved emotional issues, and I just didn't feel that I could offer that to someone, and I didn't want anyone who wanted to offer that to me. A normal, healthy guy just wasn't my style. So I basically was always attracted to men who were committed to not committing, who didn't really want a relationship, who weren't really looking for marriage, who didn't really think they wanted to have kids, and men I wasn't even that attracted to at first, and men who didn't really have any interest in art. or dancing. So I would find myself in relationships with these people, and then I would wonder, why don't you really love me? Why doesn't he really love me? Why doesn't he understand me? Why doesn't he really know who I am? And of course it was because I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't living life as myself. And so these relationships were completely not going to work. So what I learned is when you are not true to yourself and then you try to love someone or have them love you back, what happens is they're not loving the real you. And so inside, maybe you're giving up things because you think that's what they want, or maybe they've said, hey, I don't like it that you do this thing, so you stop. And you believe that you're not going to need to. I love you more than I love that thing. And what happens for some people is that over time, you start to feel resentful and you start to feel misunderstood and you start to get angry or resentful that they don't love you. But the truth is that if I had been true to myself to begin with, then the people who didn't like art or dancing, they wouldn't even be attracted to me in the first place, or I wouldn't be attracted to them, and they wouldn't have even been options. They would have just fallen away because it wouldn't have been a good match. But by not being myself and looking for these men who would like the false me, of course there was no way I could ever be loved genuinely. So instead of understanding, hey, I'm not being true to myself, and so of course he can't love me truly, that's why I'm not feeling love and being loved. Instead, I would not be myself. I would self-abandon and find love, supposed love, and then not be loved, and then convince myself, see how unlovable I am? And I'm going to talk more about that. I'm going to continue. Keep watching if you're interested in the things I have to say. I'm going to cut it off now because it's already over 12 minutes. Okay, join me on the next one. Click subscribe. Thank you.